Hey, I'm Francis, and today I wanted to make a quick video about breathing a little bit of life into a melody by treating the melody like it was written for the instrument that the sound you're using is based on. So let's take a look. I'll be working in Reaper as usual, and the first thing I'll do is create an instrument track, and I'll take my input from MIDI and make sure that I'm record armed and monitoring my input so that I can hear whatever it is that I end up doing. I will use Kontakt, which is a really great sampler. There's a wonderful free version of it. This is the paid version, but it looks relatively similar. The big difference is that you have access to a few more sample libraries, and you can have access to more tools when you make your own sample libraries. So in this case, I'm going to choose one of my favorite instruments, the bassoon, and I'm going to try to create a convincing bassoon solo line. And this instrument, I'll just play it real quick. I'm using a MIDI controller to play the sounds. You could do this in a piano roll, drawing the notes in, like I do in many of my tutorials. A lot of samplers will have different samples that they blend between, depending on the dynamic setting. This type of a setting will usually be controlled by the aftertouch of your keyboard or by the mod wheel. So there's mod wheel. Cool. One of the big things that many people will forget when composing music electronically for something like a bassoon is that a bassoon player needs to breathe once in a while, unless they are excellent at circular breathing, like Kenny G is an example of a clarinet player who's an excellent circular breather. He's known for adult contemporary and smooth jazz and stuff like that, but he's sort of a master of this bizarre technique. Most players aren't, and even when they are, something about including breaths in your lines makes them feel more human and sometimes makes them sound quite a bit nicer. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that the melody that I compose includes a few spots, a few breaks and breaths. Let's see here. I'll just choose a tempo and go for it. So. Okay, so we're going to see a few things happening in this melody. And the big one that I was going for is making sure that I was sort of breathing. Even though I'm playing a keyboard, you can still, you can even sing along with it or hum along with your melody. And whenever you run out of breath, imagine that the instrumentalist runs out of breath. They're better at controlling their breath than you are if you don't play a wind instrument, but the fact of the matter is that you're not blowing the air out. So usually a keyboard player's breath will align pretty well with a realistic wind instrument, a wind instrument line, that is. So a couple of other things that I'm going to try to notice is if there's any overlap. I don't want overlap because I want it to sound like one bassoon. So let's just listen for that and see if any overlap is detectable. That right there is a little bit questionable. And unfortunately, things like trills are always going to be a little bit less realistic on a sampler. So we have to deal with that. Oh. A little bit of bleed on those. Let's just get those to not cross. Cool. Oh, I just realized I have my Steam notifications up. Whoops. Oh, I didn't save this project. Let's not do that. I just won't save it. Fantastic. Okay. So now I have essentially 3 phrases in my melody. And if I wanted to, I could try to use those phrases as a catalyst for deciding when other things happen in my arrangement. And I could use the notes to decide what key I'm in and how I would accompany this. In this case, it looks like I've got a D, an A, and a G sharp. And it's starting to feel like it's probably some type of D minor. So maybe for sake of keeping this video short, I will create an accompaniment part that is going to be on just sort of a cheesy pad synth. That way I don't have to spend a lot of time sound designing something. Let's just do that. So let's just see how a D chord feels, like a D power chord, D5. Playing a D and an A there. Okay. And when we get to that G sharp, it feels like maybe an E major chord would work well there. There's a G sharp and an E major, so maybe that's a good idea. And that one down there feels like it goes to a C chord, and that's a G, so having a C in the bass sort of makes sense. And then maybe that last one is a B flat chord. Or an A chord going to a D. So I'll just try recording some chords and then we will be off to the races. All right, and there we have it. A quick accompaniment that might be better suited on a different instrument. But we can listen through and get a feel for whether or not those breaths still feel natural when there is a sort of a pad layer behind it. I'm going to choose a different sound on this to make sure that it's a bit more in the background. Oops, what's going on here? Didn't click. Maybe this chord is a little bit questionable. Let's see if I can choose a better one. something like this. And I think that the lack of expression on this instrument is causing problems. But at the end of the day, this is a relatively simple part, and I don't think that I'm too worried about the accompaniment since we're focusing mostly on melody here. So let me know if you have any questions as always, and if you like this kind of stuff, I'd be happy to go into more detail. But as I've said before, I think going into a great deal of detail on this type of sound structure is the difference between 5 minutes and 1 hour. So be ready for a long video if you want that. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your day.